Heartwarming moment, 77-year-old woman discovers incredible power when she calls her son, the U.S. tech visionary. Agnes Thompson, at 77, felt like a ghost wandering the empty halls of her small Midwestern home. The world outside had turned gray and quiet since her husband, Frank, had passed, leaving her stranded in a life once filled with laughter. The town, once vibrant, echoed with memories of happiness that now felt like distant whispers. Mark, her only son, had fled to the city, chasing the bright lights of a tech startup, leaving her to navigate the shadows of solitude. One chilly evening, as the wind rattled the old windows, Agnes decided it was time to bridge the growing chasm of distance. She picked up the phone, her heart heavy with longing. "Mark," she said, her voice shaking with tenderness, "I need to talk to you." As she shared her vision of a community fair, an event to breathe life back into the struggling local businesses, her emotions spilled like a freshly turned soil, rich with possibility. "We could gather everyone, Mark. People need support, and this town, it needs us." Her son's voice, once warm, now rang with skepticism. "Mom, that's nice, but I'm so busy. This is just small-town dreaming. I have goals here." His dismissiveness stung like sharp ice. "But Mark," she pressed on, "once upon a time, this town thrived. Family shops lined the streets. Now look at it. It's crumbling." Her plea was an echo of love that cracked open the armor around his ambition. He hesitated, feeling a flicker ignite within him. There was something in her words of fierce passion that had been buried beneath his aspirations. Yet, as he promised to come home for the fair, his mind drifted back to his endless emails and meetings, dimming the spark igniting in Agnes's heart. When Mark arrived, he was a whirlwind, frenzied and unable to grasp the essence of his mother's vision. Agnes's hope met his indifference, weaving a thick tension that filled the air. "Mark, you don't understand," she cried in frustration. "These people are my family. You've lost sight of what matters." The confrontation was raw, layers of misunderstandings and years of emotional distance ripped open like old wounds. His ambitions clashed against his mother's love. It was a pivotal moment that breathed life into unresolved feelings. As the fair approached, the community rallied, excitement buzzing like bees in summer. Agnes felt proud, writing letters and gathering supplies, a woman transformed by purpose, while Mark struggled to engage. The day of the fair, the town blossomed under the sun, laughter swirling in the air. Yet, Mark's attention was constantly pulled away by his phone, notifications buzzing incessantly. "Mom, look at this!" he shouted, forgetting about the people around. Agnes's heart sank as the energy of community threatened to slip away. But then, as the crowd shared their stories of strength, Mark felt the warmth envelop him, digging deep into a sense of belonging he had long neglected. Suddenly, reality struck him like a thunderclap. Success was more than accolades, it was dancing with his roots, feeling the heartbeat of community. But just as he turned to embrace this realization, his phone buzzed violently in his pocket, dragging him back to his relentless city life, the urgency a vice around his heart. Would he grasp this chance at connection, or would he let ambition snatch it away? As Agnes looked at her son, her hopes swirling like autumn leaves caught in the wind, she braced herself, knowing the outcome hung precariously in the balance. Agnes stood still in the heart of the bustling fair, her breath catching as she watched Mark retreat into the glare of his phone screen. The colorful booths around her handmade crafts, delicious treats, and the laughter of children felt distant, as if she were observing a world she desperately wanted to reach but couldn't quite touch. "Mark," she called, her voice trembling with emotion. He looked up, startled. "Can you just put that down for a moment and be present with me?" He hesitated, his fingers hovering over the screen, but he finally slipped the phone into his pocket. The noise of the crowd faded for a moment, replaced by a palpable silence between mother and son. "What is going on, Mom?" Mark asked, concern flickering through his voice. Agnes took a deep breath, her resolve stronger than ever. "This fair isn't just a project. It's about us, about family and community. I understand you have your life in the city, but these people, they are my life. And I need you to see that. Mark shifted his weight, the tension radiating from his shoulders into the space around them. I get it, I do. But I'm trying to build something big. Something that will make a difference. By ignoring where you come from? Agnes's words hung in the air, heavy and challenging. We can chase our dreams, but we can't forget our roots. This town is where your heart started beating. Look around, Mark. There's love, support, and strength here. Don't you feel it? As she pointed to a group of neighbors sharing stories and laughter, he glanced over, but couldn't seem to give himself over to the moment. The busyness of his life loomed like a cloud over his heart, and Agnes felt a pang of worry. Mom, I promise I'm listening, but this is all so nostalgic. It's just what? She interjected, feeling the heat of frustration mix with fear. Just a memory? Just a part of the past? Mark's face fell. He opened his mouth to respond, but the words got lost in the swirl of emotions. In that moment, a child running past with a candy apple bumped into him, and a smile broke through the tension. Watch it, buddy. He chuckled, feeling the brief spark of joy in the midst of their heavy conversation. Agnes seized the opportunity, taking a step closer. This isn't just about nostalgia. It's about hope. This town can thrive again with love, like it used to, like our family used to. The words echoed in him. For the first time, he felt the bubble of his own ambition begin to crack, revealing the emotions he had buried deep. The joy of community, the beauty of connection, it all pressed against his chest. He could see it now, small and unassuming, but there. Mom, Mark said slowly, I'm starting to understand why this matters so much to you. But before he could finish, the familiar hum of his phone vibrated violently in his pocket again. The urgency surged, pulling him back. I just need to check something, he mumbled, conflicted. Agnes's heart sank once more. Mark, please. As he turned away to glance at the screen, time felt like quicksand slipping through her fingers. She could see him, her boy, torn between two worlds. Could he finally let go of the suffocating weight of his phone and embrace the love right in front of him? Or would ambition continue to keep him captive? The fair around them buzzed with laughter and connections, but for Agnes, all the joy of the day hung on the moment that felt like it might slip away. Mom? He paused, uncertainty in his eyes. Agnes felt hope flicker like a candle in a storm. What are you going to choose, Mark? But the answer eluded him as he still stared at the screen. The crowd cheered for a game nearby, but all she could hear was the pounding of her heart, a question echoing between them. As the sunlight began to set, painting the fair in warm hues, she couldn't help but wonder. Would this moment of truth lead them to the connection they both desperately needed? A sudden rush of noise from the nearby carnival games snapped Mark out of his trance. His thumb swiped mindlessly across the glowing screen, the notifications blurring into a background hum. Agnes's voice pierced through his daze. Mark, look at me. He hesitated, finally tearing his gaze away from the bright screen and meeting her eyes. There was fear but also determination there, a mixture he had never seen before. I'm here, Mom, he said softly, but his heart wasn't fully in it. Being present isn't about just standing here physically, Agnes implored, her breath catching. You have to feel what's around you, the community that raised you. Look at what you're missing. But he didn't see the faces a few feet away, each one a reminder of laughter and memories. Instead, his mind raced with plans and deadlines. The bright lights of the city were still calling him. I know it's important. You're right, but each word felt like he was trying to connect two distant worlds that didn't quite fit. Agnes saw his struggle, the weight of expectation pressing down on his shoulders like a heavy cloak. You've worked so hard, Mark, she said, voice steadying. But is it worth losing the people who love you? The warmth of the setting sun draped over them as the day began to close. For a brief second, he looked around, really looked. The laughter from a group of kids, the smell of popcorn mixing with the sweet scent of freshly fried funnel cakes, the twinkling lights strung between tents, all of it tugged at his heartstrings, awakening feelings he thought he'd buried under ambition. I guess I don't want to be stuck here, he finally admitted, a whisper breaking past unsteady lips. Agnes stepped closer, her voice barely above the sounds of the fair. You think growing up here is being stuck? I've built a life around love, support, and strength. This isn't a trap, Mark. It's our foundation. The walls he had built around his heart shook. Her words struck deeper than he expected. What if I disappoint you? He asked, fear painted across his features. You could never disappoint me, she replied, shaking her head. I want you to follow your dreams. But I need you to know where you came from. It shapes who you are, who you will become. For the first time in a long while, a hint of clarity penetrated the fog of his ambition. A flicker of understanding sparked, and doubt began to loosen its grip. Holding Agnes's gaze, he felt something stir inside him, a desire to reconcile the past with his ambitions. Before he could let the revelation settle, a loud cheer erupted from the crowd, drawing his attention. He turned just in time to see a little girl nearly win a giant stuffed bear from a ring toss, her face lighting up with triumph. He couldn't help but smile at the joy echoed around him, so pure and free from the weight of expectations that at that moment, something shifted within Mark. Maybe I could be a part of this, even if it's just a little, he said, as if testing the waters. Agnes's smile widened, the joy radiating from her engulfing them both. That's all I want, Mark. Just be a part of it. He felt a wave of courage wash over him, mixed with the warmth of his mother's belief. Slowly, almost hesitantly, he pocketed the phone again, a bold decision that echoed louder than the cheers of the crowd. What do you want to do? He asked, his voice steadying as he met her gaze again. Agnes beamed, as if the world had just opened before them. How about we help the vendors set up? Or we could try some games together. You used to love them. A laugh bubbled up within him, a sound he hadn't realized he missed. Just then, a group of familiar neighbors approached, waving him over with infectious enthusiasm. Mark, come try your luck with us. As he turned to face them, a sense of belonging washed over him that he hadn't felt in ages. But even as he stepped forward, a small part of him couldn't help but glance back toward the lights of the city far in the distance. Would he really belong here? Or would this connection flicker out like all those before? There was a struggle ahead, one he wasn't sure he was ready for, but maybe, just maybe, it was worth finding out. What awaited him could either bridge two worlds or burn the past, and unanswered questions stirred deep within him as he faced the crowd. Could he balance the life he had built in the city with the roots he was now re-embracing? And what if he found a way to combine both? Mark felt a gentle push from behind as one of his neighbors, Mrs. Hargrove, a sprightly woman with vibrant silver hair, approached him with a bright smile. You should come and try the dunk tank, she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Oh, how you loved it as a boy. Remember the summer you dunked your father 3 times in a row? Laughter erupted from the small crowd gathering around them, and Mark couldn't help but join in. That memory clung to him, filled with joy and carefree days, but it felt distant. He glanced over at Agnes. She nodded encouragingly. Okay, why not? He said, a little too quickly, surprising himself. Fantastic. Mrs. Hargrove clapped her hands together, leading him toward the tank. As they walked, Mark caught sight of familiar faces, all filled with warmth and anticipation. It was as if they were welcoming him back into their fold. The dunk tank loomed before him, a giant red barrel filled with murky water. Around it, kids were cheering, parents smiling, and the air was thick with anticipation. Mark's heart raced not from fear, but from exhilaration. The idea of being part of something tangible felt good. Okay, Mark. You ready to take on the challenge? Mrs. Hargrove teased, as she handed him a ball, soft and worn from countless throws that he stepped up to the platform, feeling the warmth of the wooden board under his feet. The man seated above the tank winked at him, clearly a veteran of the dunking game. Mark took a deep breath, the smell of popcorn and cotton candy filling his senses, mingling with the cool breeze of the evening. He glanced at Agnes standing at the edge, her eyes shining with pride and encouragement. This moment, this connection, felt right. He threw the first ball and missed the target completely, splashing water nearby, to the crowd's laughter. Not bad for a start. Someone shouted cheerfully, and Mark chuckled, his nerves easing. With each throw, he felt a little lighter. Each ball sailed closer to the target, and with every cheer from the crowd, he felt more alive. The next throw hit the target square, and the man above plummeted into the water below. Roars of laughter erupted, along with his own surprised shout of joy. As the man climbed out of the tank, gasping for breath but laughing, Mark noticed the high-fives exchanged between the kids, the smiles that spread like wildfire through the onlookers, the united energy of the moment that made it all worthwhile. See? You've still got it. Agnes cheered, her voice a melody in the revelry. Mark felt the tug of connection, the threads of his life weaving together. This was not just a moment of indulgence, it was a reaffirmation of who he could be. He looked over at Agnes, who grinned wider than he could remember. Okay, let us take it up a notch, he declared with newfound excitement, grabbing another ball. But as he prepared to throw, something tugged at his heart. Thoughts of his life at the city flickered in and out. He was enjoying this, but could he really let go of his ambitions? With one more throw, he aimed again and knocked another target down, the sensation of joy momentarily overwhelming. The cheers washed over him like a warm hug. But doubt crept back in. He glanced down the fairway once more, toward the distant glimmering lights that had always drawn him in like a moth to a flame. Maybe I can have both? He murmured to himself, his heart thudding in his chest as hope flickered in his chest like a flame. The laughter of a nearby child broke his reverie, pulling him back to the present. He couldn't ignore the warmth emanating from the people surrounding him, the love and support from his community washing over him like a gentle tide. As he stepped down from the dunk tank, he realized this was just the beginning. A dual path awaited him, the challenge of reconciling his ambitions with the love this place offered. But could he truly juggle them both? A voice deep within whispered an encouraging thought, both scary yet exciting. What if you let your new dreams evolve from your roots? Just then, a loud announcement came over. The Fair's speakers, announcing a talent show beginning shortly. Mark's heart raced again, shimmering with curiosity. Could he, dare to share his own voice? The air buzzed with anticipation, both from the crowd and within himself. Did he have the courage to step into the spotlight this time as more than just an onlooker? As Agnes nudged him closer to the stage, Mark's thoughts tangled between fear and possibility. He trembled with expectation, unsure whether he was ready to leap again both into the unknown and toward a brighter connection. The music began to swell, and just as a new sense of purpose stirred within, the question hung in the air, would he take that leap? Mark's heart raced as he stood at the edge of the stage, the music wrapping around him like a warm embrace. The crowd's murmur ebbed and flowed around him, a living entity that pulsed with anticipation. He could feel their eyes on him, an intoxicating blend of excitement and fear unfurling in his chest. Agnes was beside him, her hand resting on his shoulder, grounding him. "You've got this," she whispered, her voice calm and encouraging. The warmth of her presence reminded him of all the moments they shared and how far he had come just today. "I don't know if I can," he started, but the words caught in his throat, the familiar echo of self-doubt whispering in his ear. What if he failed? What if they didn't like him? "Just be yourself," she said, her eyes sparkling. "We're here for you." That simple reassurance struck a chord deep within him. It dawned on Mark that this moment wasn't just about performing, it was about connecting, sharing his story, and perhaps discovering a part of himself he thought he had lost. The announcer's voice rang out, booming through the fairground. "Next up, we have Mark Sullivan." Mark took a step forward, the wooden stage creaking underfoot. The spotlight felt blinding, yet it was strangely comforting. He scanned the crowd, hoping to catch familiar faces. Mrs. Hargrove waved enthusiastically, and a group of kids cheered, their joyful innocence lifting his spirits. As he grabbed the microphone, his hand trembled slightly. Taking a deep breath, he opened his mouth. The opening notes of a song he loved floated in his mind, a memory unearthed from a time when music felt limitless and alive. It was from childhood, one he used to sing during long summer days spent with friends, laughing and creating bonds. Tentatively, he began to sing. His voice quivered at first, then grew stronger as he lost himself in the melody. He could feel the energy of the crowd shifting, transforming into a web of support that wrapped around him. Each note sent ripples of warmth through his body, chasing away the doubts that lingered at the edges of his mind. He looked out at Agnes, who stood smiling, her eyes gleaming like jewels. The connection between them felt profound. This wasn't just a performance, it was a bridge to the parts of himself he had neglected. With every verse, he could hear people beginning to hum along and sway to the rhythm. That sense of belonging was intoxicating. As he finished, a wave of applause washed over him, washing away all his fear. Energy surged through him, a mix of relief and exhilaration. He had faced the moment and turned it into something beautiful. "Thank you," he exclaimed, breathless. The crowd cheered back as he took a small bow, feeling lighter than air, but then, as the applause began to fade, an unexpected sensation crept in. Mark stood at the edge of a cliff, no longer just facing the growing doubts of his city life, but also the reality of what came next. The experience was raw and illuminating, but he needed to choose his way forward. Did I really discover my voice, or was it just for tonight? He pondered. The question clung to him like a haunting melody. Just as he stepped away from the stage, buoyed by possibility but anchored in uncertainty, a small voice from the crowd called out, "Mark, you should do it again." A spark ignited within him at that urging. Could he really pursue this? The road ahead seemed as exciting as it was terrifying. The next chapter of his life was rearing to unfold, filled with everything he had once put aside. "Maybe I can have both," he whispered to himself, a flicker of hope igniting anew. And then, as a new wave of encouragement swelled from the crowd, he began to step back towards the stage, reevaluating everything. Would he brave the spotlight once more with a song in his heart and dreams in his sight? Mark's feet moved almost of their own accord, drawn back toward the stage. The whispers of the crowd enveloped him again, this time with renewed energy. His pulse quickened, not just from exhilaration but a newfound determination. The microphone felt familiar in his hand, as if it was meant to be there. He looked over at Agnes, who beamed at him, nodding encouragingly. She was like a lighthouse shining through the fog, guiding him onward. Her unwavering faith in him made his heart swell. Maybe this wasn't just about him anymore. It was about the people who believed in him, who fed off his energy and shared this moment with him. With a deep breath, he stepped back into the glow of the spotlight. The cheers died down, and an expectant hush settled over the audience. Mark felt that same tightness in his chest, but it was different now, like holding the reins of a wild horse instead of just trying to keep it from throwing him off. "Thank you all." He paused, the words caught like a butterfly on a thorn. "I've never done anything like this before." He forced a nervous chuckle, which was met with laughter and cheers. "Tonight has been amazing for me, and I want to share another song with you. This one is a little more special." His fingers strummed the guitar, a familiar tune flowing through his fingers. It was a song he remembered singing during a summer camp, a favorite among his friends. Those carefree days flooded his mind, faces of friends long forgotten appearing like snapshots in his memory. As he sang, his voice felt strong and real. Each note hung in the air, and for the first time in a long while, he could see the joy spread across unfamiliar faces. People swayed, moving to the rhythm, a collective heartbeat echoing back at him. Mark felt the music wrap around him, binding past and present into one glorious moment that he remembered: the laughter, the friendships, the sense of belonging. The doubts began to fade, replaced by the pure exhilaration of sharing what he loved. The song ended, and applause erupted like fireworks. My God, the joy in their eyes. For the first time, he realized how healing this experience could be for everyone. He was no longer just singing to find his own voice, he was singing to connect, to lift others just as they had lifted him. As he stepped off the stage again, a sense of clarity settled over him. The tight knot of fear had loosened. Courage surged through him, filling those deep chasms of confusion he had carried for years. He could pursue music, yes, but he could also weave it into his life in ways he'd never considered before. Agnes rushed over, her arms wide as she engulfed him in a warm hug. You were fantastic, Mark. That was amazing. Her excitement was palpable, infectious. I can't believe I did that, he said, laughter bubbling up. I felt so alive. But beneath that happiness lurked the nagging question that had flickered alongside his excitement. Was this the real turning point, or just a spark in the night? Just then, Mrs. Hargrove approached, her eyes brimming with tears. Mark, you have a gift. You need to keep sharing it. There is so much more in you. Her words hung in the air like a challenge. Could he really do more? Did he dare step beyond this moment and take it seriously? His heart raced again, a different kind of urgency building. The idea of recording, performing, even writing his songs flooded his thoughts. More, huh? He murmured, weighing the possibilities. In that heartbeat of uncertainty, the thrill and the terror danced together, and he realized the stakes were higher than ever. What if he plunged into the unknown and it all fell apart? Or worse, what if he never tried at all? As he held Agnes's gaze, he understood that he didn't have to decide everything right now. He could explore, take small steps, and let the music lead him. With a renewed sense of direction, he smiled. Let us see where this takes me. Just as that determination settled in, a voice from the crowd called out again, Mark, are you going to do this full time? His heart skipped at the thought. Could he dare to chase this dream? But the uncertainty rolled back in, shadowing his newfound resolve. How could he balance everything? What would his life look like if he truly pursued this? As the crowd continued to cheer and call for him, he felt the weight of those questions settle on his shoulders, looming as large as the stage he had just stepped from. And yet, a small flame flickered in his chest, urging him to chase it. Mark stepped off the stage, his heart still racing from the performance. The crowd's cheers echoed in his ears, lighting up a part of him he hadn't even realized was dimmed. Agnes held his hand, her grip strong and reassuring. She was still buzzing with her own excitement, and for a moment, they stood there together, savoring the moment, both awash in the afterglow of the shared experience. But as the laughter and conversation floated around him, the familiar shadows of doubt started creeping back in. What did it mean to really pursue this? The thought of taking music seriously was exciting, but terrifying too. His mind raced with images, late nights writing songs, the potential for both failure and success looming large. Hey, Agnes said suddenly, nudging his shoulder. You okay? Yeah, just thinking, he replied, forcing a smile. You have what it takes, she said, her eyes shining with conviction. I've seen it in you. Those words hung between them like a lifeline. He wanted to believe them. But could it really be that simple? He stared into her face and saw genuine belief reflected back at him. Maybe this was the moment he had been waiting for, but the uncertainty still clawed at him. Mark. A voice shouted from the back of the crowd. It was Toby, a friend from college. Come over here. The energy swelled as he made his way through the scattered groups of people. Once at the bar, Toby clapped him on the back, his face lit up with enthusiasm. "Dude! That was unreal. You have to record that. Seriously. Thanks, man," Mark said, trying to keep the excitement in check. "I'm still kind of processing everything. You've got to ride this wave. Let people hear your voice." Toby leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Think about it. You have a gift. You can't just let it go." A wave of conflicting emotions washed over him. He felt the weight of their expectations, but also the encouragement that came with it. "Yeah, I've been thinking about it. But I don't know how to even start. I can help. We can write some stuff together. Yeah, let us get the studio time, see where it goes." Toby's enthusiasm was infectious, and Mark felt a flicker of excitement spark within him. Then, like a dagger through the heart, doubt whispered again. What if it didn't work out? What if he poured everything into this and it all crumbled around him? "I don't even know if I'm good enough," he admitted, almost under his breath. Toby's expression shifted, becoming serious. "Dude, everyone starts somewhere. What matters is that you're willing to even try. Do you want this?" Mark hesitated, the weight of the world felt like it was pressing down on him. He looked around at the people laughing, chatting, sharing drinks. They were all there, part of this musical moment intertwined with their lives. Could he really contribute to this joy in a bigger way? As he searched each face, a realization hit him. Sharing his music could connect them all in ways that words never could. The thought ignited a fire within him. "I do want this. I really do," he said, feeling stronger with each word. "Then let us make it happen," Toby exclaimed, lifting his fist for a playful bump. Mark met his fist with his own, laughter spilling out as his nerves began to ease. He felt lighter, as if a door had swung open in his mind. Maybe he wasn't just chasing an impossible dream. Maybe he was ready to open himself up to something beautiful, but as excitement bubbled at the surface, another question lingered. How would he tell his family? Would they support him or worry he was throwing his life away? The thought made his stomach churn slightly. "Hey," Agnes said, catching the look on his face. "What's wrong?" "Just thinking about my family," he replied, the weight of responsibility creeping back. "I don't know how they'll react." "Mark, this is your journey. You have to do what feels right for you." Her voice was calm, steady. Mark nodded slowly, appreciating her wisdom. But that nagging worry sat heavy in his chest. As he looked back at the stage, the microphone still standing there like a beacon, the flicker of hope transformed into a roaring flame. He felt ready to leap into the unknown. Yet, in that moment of clarity, he couldn't shake the question that lingered: would his family accept the path he chose to take? And as the crowd's cheers faded into the background, Mark realized that discovering his voice might be just the beginning of an even bigger journey. Mark stood there, a mixture of exhilaration and trepidation swirling in his chest. The music had brought him joy, but the thought of sharing it with his family weighed heavily on his mind like a storm cloud looming on the horizon. He had faced his fears tonight, but the biggest challenge still lay ahead, confronting his family's expectations. "Want to grab a bite?" Toby asked, pulling him back to the moment. "We can brainstorm some song ideas." Mark hesitated. The energy from the crowd was still fresh, but his heart was now a jumble of emotions. He started, glancing at Agnes and then back to Toby. "Sure, let us do it. I could use a good distraction right now." They headed to a nearby diner, the familiar neon lights flickering against the evening sky. As they settled into their seats, the warm scent of coffee and fries enveloped them. Mark tried to immerse himself in the moment, but doubt crept back in, gnawing at him with every minute that passed. "You okay?" Agnes asked as they perused the menu. She could read him like a book. "Honestly? No. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration bubbling. It's just, what are my parents going to say? They've always had this idea of what I should be doing with my life. I don't want to disappoint them. Toby frowned, leaning closer. What do they want for you? Success in some career that makes them proud? Mark thought for a moment. They want stability. A steady job, you know? Something they can brag about at dinner parties. But what do you want? Toby asked pointedly. In the end, it's your happiness at stake here. If music makes you happy, then you owe it to yourself to try. Mark nodded, but the words didn't erase the doubts. Would they understand? Would they ever consider music a viable path? He had spent years pursuing a more sensible career, all while longing to dive into the world where his heart truly belonged. Maybe I'll just keep it to myself for a while, he suggested, his voice low. Focus on making music without their input. If you do that, you'll always be hiding part of yourself, Agnes countered gently. And that's not fair to you. Or to them. They deserve to know who their son really is. That hit him hard. Would he really be living authentically if he kept such a fundamental part of himself hidden? It felt wrong, like a lie he would tell to maintain peace. You think they rejected? He asked, suddenly afraid of the answer. No, Agnes replied softly, placing her hand over his. They might surprise you. Even if they don't understand right away, they love you. Just then, a couple at the next table shared a laugh that bubbled through Mark's anxiety. Happiness surrounded him, infiltrating the corners of his doubts. What if I'm actually good enough? He mused aloud. What if they see me up there, doing what I love, and they finally get it? Now you're talking. Toby said, lifting his coffee mug. To new beginnings. Mark raised his glass, a smile breaking through the tension. Yet the question remained, would taking this leap truly change anything with his family? As they waited for their food, Mark felt something shift inside. The uncertainty was still there, but now it felt less like a weight and more like anticipation. He was about to step into the unknown, and somehow, that thrill surged through him. But before he could fully embrace it, he thought of his father's stern face and his mother's worried brow. How would they react when he finally told them? At that moment, the space around him buzzed with energy, and he realized that he wasn't just deciding his fate, he was also carving out a path for them all to understand him better. As the food arrived, laughter and chatter filled the diner, and Mark felt the warmth of connection. Soon, the moment would come when he'd open his heart. He took a deep breath, ready for whatever lay ahead. But was he truly ready to confront their expectations, or would fear hold him back? The diner buzzed with the warmth of shared stories and laughter, yet Mark felt separate, as if he were watching from a distance. Toby and Agnes reminisced about a local band they once saw and how their songs echoed in the air long after the lights went dim. Mark nodded along, but his mind was fixed elsewhere, the looming conversation with his parents. Hey, you still with us? Toby joked, snapping his fingers in front of Mark's face. Thought we lost you to the daydreams. Mark chuckled, forcing his focus back to the table. Yeah, just thinking about what I need to do next. Agnes tilted her head, her expression softening. You know, whatever happens, we've got your back. You're not alone in this. Thanks. That really helps, Mark said, his heart swelling at the support, but anxiety quickly draped over him like a fog again. I just wish I could find the right time to talk to them. It was as if the universe sensed his struggle. The jukebox in the corner clicked into life, playing a tune that felt all too fitting, a familiar melody that told a story of chasing dreams and overcoming fear. Mark's pulse quickened. This was a sign, wasn't it? A nudge from something greater to take a leap. He closed his eyes for a moment. The music wrapped around him like a warm embrace, pushing away the storm inside. Alright, what's the plan? Toby leaned forward, a spark igniting in his eyes. You need to tell your folks how you feel. Maybe we can prep for it after dinner? Mark sighed, the thought both exhilarating and terrifying. I could use some prep. But what if they don't get it? What if they think it's just a phase? Then you show them it's not. Agnes interjected passionately. You pour everything you've got into music, and they see your passion. It's not like you're asking for their permission to live your life. You're sharing who you are. As she spoke, Mark felt the old fears ebbing away slightly, replaced by a flicker of resolve. But what if it goes horribly wrong? Will I lose them? You want to lose them, Toby said firmly. They might take some time, sure. But they love you. That's the foundation of everything. Mark's thoughts turned to all the sacrifices he had made for the sake of their happiness. He had played along for years, following paths laid out for him. But every chord struck in the diner brought him closer to a truth he couldn't ignore. Deep down, he knew the music surged through him. It was an inseparable part of his identity. Suddenly, he stood, pulling himself out of the booth. You know what? Let us write something tonight. Something that speaks for me. I need to feel this moment. Toby and Agnes exchanged encouraging glances and followed him to the diner's small corner stage. With a weary smile, Mark picked up the guitar that sat there, waiting almost as if it had been anticipating his return that he strummed the strings gently, crafting a melody that felt alive. Each note swirled with the intensity of his emotions. The diner was filled with a hush as people turned to watch. The weight of his worries faded, replaced by a sense of clarity. What would happen when he finally opened up to his family? Would they embrace the new path he was forging, or would they push back? With every chord, he embraced the uncertainty, transforming fear into a song that resonated with his truth. It wasn't just music, it was his heart spilling out. As his voice carried through the room, he realized something profound. The road ahead might be fraught with challenges, but it was also ripe with possibility. And just as he reached the crescendo, the door swung open, and in walked his parents, looking bewildered yet intrigued. The moment felt electric, charged with all he had been afraid to say. Would tonight be the night everything changed? Mark's heart raced as he caught sight of his parents entering the diner. Their faces reflected surprise and curiosity, a mixture of confusion and concern. It was as if the universe had conspired to force this moment into existence, right here, right now. He took a deep breath, the strumming of the guitar anchoring him in the present. The crowd had turned silent, and he could feel their attention shifting toward him, amplifying the weight of his next words. But somehow, it felt right. Music swirled around him like a warm blanket, giving him courage. He layered his emotions into the next verse, channeling everything he had felt: the joy, the fear, the longing for acceptance. This is who I am, this is my song, he sang, each note rolling off his tongue effortlessly. The rhythm surged like a heartbeat, strong and true. With each chord he played, a weight lifted, and he began to feel lighter. Agnes watched with pride shimmering in her eyes. She knew her son was peeling back years of doubt, embracing the musician he had hidden away for too long. Toby swayed to the music, encouraging Mark with every beat, his own passion lighting up the little diner. Mark's parents stood rooted at the entrance, their expressions changing as they absorbed the performance. Their initial bewilderment shifted to curiosity, then slowly to understanding. It was like peeling layers off an onion, revealing the core they had sometimes overlooked. I've chased the lights, the dreams of the city, Mark continued, his voice shaking slightly with emotion. But it's here where I feel most alive. I need you to see me. This is my heart, can you hear it beat? He felt their gaze lock onto his, searching for understanding. Mark poured every ounce of love, fear, and hope into the song, the notes reaching an all-time high. The glances exchanged between his parents seemed charged with silent conversations, unspoken words begging to be acknowledged. As he finished the last note, the diner erupted in applause, a wave of sound crashing over him like a surge of warmth. But he wasn't finished yet. He scanned the crowd, his heart racing, adrenaline coursing through him. With a trembling heart, he picked up the microphone again. "Mom, Dad," he said, his voice full of new determination. The murmurs of the crowd faded into a soft hum, hanging on his words. "I know this might surprise you, but I want to pursue music. It's who I am. I hope you can understand." The silence that followed felt heavy but also charged with possibility. To Mark's relief, he didn't see disdain or disappointment flicker across their faces, but something far more complex: curiosity mixed with concern. His mother stepped forward, her eyes glistening. "Mark," she said slowly, "we've always wanted what's best for you. We just want you to have a stable life." "I know, Mom," he replied, earnest and raw. "But music is so much more than just a hobby for me. It's my passion. Can you give me a chance to explore this?" "I didn't know," his dad finally spoke, voice steady but his brow furrowed. "I didn't know this meant so much to you. Have you been hiding this from us?" A knot formed in Mark's throat, but he pushed it down. "For so long. I was afraid you wouldn't accept it. But I want to be honest now, even if it's scary." Silence wrapped around them, thick with tension. But as the seconds slipped by, he could see the wheels turning in their minds. An understanding began to bloom in the air, as if they were searching for the right words to bridge this gap. "Maybe we've been too focused on stability," his mom finally admitted, her voice soft yet firm. "We just want you to be happy." "Happy means more than a steady job," his father added, looking deeply into Mark's eyes. "If music is your happiness, then maybe we need to give it a chance." The shock washed over Mark, while hope bloomed like flowers in spring. "Really?" he pressed, unable to keep the disbelief from his voice. His dad nodded slowly, a small smile creeping to his lips. "We'll support you, son. Just show us what you need. Just, don't forget about us while you go for it." Mark felt a rush of emotions: joy, relief, love swirling together in his chest. "I promise I won't." The warmth of the moment washed over them, and the applause echoed in the background, a fitting soundtrack to their newfound connection. As he shared his plans and dreams over late-night coffee in the diner, surrounded by laughter and encouragement, Mark realized it wasn't just the music that had brought them together but also the courage to speak his truth. In that cozy diner, filled with familiar faces and the comforting buzz of community, Mark felt the transformations of his dreams opening doors in his life, all rooted back to the small town he once thought he had escaped. He found freedom in music, but more than that, he found acceptance and love in his family, and that was a melody sweeter than anything he could ever hope to create. As he and his parents shared laughs and visions of what the future might hold, Mark saw a path unfold before him, intertwining ambition with a love deeper than mere success, the realization that he could have both, a vibrant life filled with laughter, community, and the freedom to soar. From that night on, Mark knew he was ready to embrace the adventure, singing out loudly into the world, no longer just for himself but for those who mattered most. And so, the stage was set for a beautiful journey ahead, one where music and family bound together in harmony. Mark couldn't wait to see where it would lead. As the last chords lingered in the air, a new chapter was beginning, and it was going to be one incredible ride. You need to subscribe now to follow along with more heartwarming stories like this. This is the moment to show your support for the journey ahead. Click that like button now to feed the algorithm. We want to hear your reactions and feelings about this ending, so comment below, don't hold back. And truly, you must share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Look around you, spread the love, and don't wait not even one more second to share.